Hey, I'm Gavin.
And I'm Johnny, and this is Behind the Beach Bars podcast.
We're the founders of the Beach Bars, a group of local bars here on the Sunshine Coast built with purpose and passion.
In this podcast, we're going to take you behind the scenes and tell you about our journey, our people, our partnerships, and how we run and operate this business.
It's for locals, for team, or for anyone who's curious into what goes on behind the scenes of building a business you believe in. Okay, so in this episode, we're going to go behind the curtain, and we're going to talk about how we actually run this thing. And the thing about the Beach Bars is it didn't just grow by accident. You know, there's been an actual plan and strategy behind this business from the start, and it's been the growth mindset and, more importantly, the execution that we've brought to that that's actually enabled it to go from 15 employees to 100 employees, or from one loss-making, poorly run venue to three amazing venues that are now just kicking ass here on the coast. And so, yeah, we want to break down how we actually run this business so you can get an idea of what's going on behind the scenes. So in particular, I'm going to dive into the different levels of meetings and strategy and stuff that we have in play in this business. And in particular, we have a quarterly directors meeting between Johnny and myself and with Matt. We have a quarterly strategic meeting, which actually involves all of the leaders across the whole business coming together for some dedicated, working on business time.
And then that rolls into weekly venue manager and head chef chats, where we're sort of executing everything back up to the top of where we were sort of the strategic intentions at the directors meeting.
So let's dive into each one of those one at a time, just to kind of give a little flavour of what actually goes on in that meeting, or why it's a part of this business and why it's helped this business to succeed to where it's got to. So if we pick the quarterly directors meeting to first, good one to talk about it because we just had it last week, so we can reflect on what we actually did. And at that meeting was yourself, me, and Matt, the third owner. It's a largely financial meeting coupled with a largely strategic meeting. Like, what's the big picture purpose of the business and making sure we're on track. And so the things we did at that meeting was we reviewed the financials for the business. How's it performing? Not only how's it performing, but how's it actually positioned financially? You know, does it have enough cash in the bank? Can it pay its bills on time? What does the cash flow forecast look like? Is it in a strong financial position? What do we need to do to ensure the safety and security of the business? Like you touched on off camera just a second ago, but you were talking about how so many other hospitality businesses you worked for before have all gone under, because the thing about hospitality, it is quite a cash intensive business, cash up front, but that can tend to lead people astray if they don't understand the numbers side of the business really well.
Yeah.
And get them into a lot of trouble.
Yeah, and you see it a lot with hospo owners. They're in survival mode every day. And so that's when you get the stories of they're having to do 80, 90 hours a week. They haven't had a day off in 3 weeks. It's because they don't know where they're heading or what they're doing or where they're going.
Yeah. So it's great that we have these quarterly meetings to just pull ourselves out high level. We're obviously checking the numbers a lot in between. We can touch on that, but we're having these high level meetings to understand how the business is performing overall, how it's positioned financially overall. We have great projections into the future so we can see what the financials look like, where we're heading, what will be positioned financially, which really helps give us confidence in our strategy and direction of the business and where we're going. At the quarterly meeting, so we did that financial kind of component, but then we look at what the projections for the business look like, and applying that kind of growth mindset approach that we always have across this business is, we're not accepting that forecast as being okay. We're like, well, what areas of the business can we focus on and improve? And it's from there that at a high level, we're able to pick the strategies about what we want to pursue. We can look at, for example, the marketing budget and say, well, what if we doubled the marketing budget or spent more on marketing? Where would we spend that? What would that actually achieve for us? We can look at our team and be like, well, what are we spending on team? What could we actually reinvest to further develop our team? And that's where we're able to identify who's up for leadership programs or other coaching programs we can go into. We're able to see the big picture opportunities at that meeting because it's a really high level based meeting. So that's largely what the directors board meeting is about, and that kind of occurs on a quarterly pattern. The other key meeting which we do on a quarterly basis, which is, I think, what's been the real fundamental game changer about this business and always keeping it on the front foot in terms of progression, is that quarterly strategy session where we get all the leaders together. So this isn't just directors, this is like cafe managers and head chefs and bar managers across all the venues getting together. And we work through a really clear model that we focus on, where we look at what's working well. What are the achievements we've had in the business? What's gone well? And we get a whole list of those. Then we focus on what's not working. What are the lessons we've learned? What are the areas we're struggling in? Where are we falling behind? Get a full list of that. Then we focus on what are our key strengths or things we need to capitalize on? What are our key weaknesses or things that are going wrong within the business? And also we spend time collectively looking at what's actually going on in the marketplace. What are the trends? What's hot or not in hospitality or in the rest of the world? And we're able to use the collective knowledge across our whole leadership base of the business to produce these great amounts of information every quarter about getting a real lay of the land about what's working, what's not, where the business is. And then we have a process of boiling that down to actually identify what are our strategic priorities going to be for the coming quarter. And those priorities, this has been a 7 or 8 year journey now. Every quarter, those things have been a different set of lists. Sometimes there's the reoccurring ones, but times there's been key weaknesses that have been found, which we've then spent time on, which when you come to the next quarterly meeting, we've actually fixed that problem or put something in place. And this is a thing that's enabled us to continue growing and scaling this business every quarter, not just in terms of financial results, but in terms of progression of people's careers and quality of product and 1 location to 3 locations.
Yeah. And you start getting a huge amount of buy-in and engagement from our key staff too. It gives them challenges and tasks, and they can set their mind onto something and really sink their teeth into it and get it done. It's like motivational. And
it's also coming from, it's not a top-down approach. It's not the 3 directors saying, here's what's going to happen now and go to this. Instead, we're actually going the other way around, and we're listening to the whole team and being like, what's working, what's not working? And let's filter all of that the other way, from the bottom up. And that's where we can get a big list of what's working for our people, what's not working for our people, and then prioritize those in terms of what we need to actually focus on each quarter. And so I love it because everybody in the business actually has a voice, and we get to hear it, and we get to know what's actually going right or wrong within the business, so then we can focus on those things to be able to fix them. And so it's then that process occurring quarterly, and from that we're able to identify what are our priorities or strategies that we want to focus on each quarter. And then this is where we go into what you were referring to before about the weekly TOPS meeting, tactical and operating priorities. It's like, how do we take those quarterly strategic goals and then we actually break them down into something we want to fix or get put in place over the coming quarter? So what's like a 12-week plan of that, of actually getting that in place? And then that is what basically rolls into the weekly TOPS meetings that we have.
Yeah, so once we sort of break down the quarterly goals into achievable weekly goals, it keeps us on task and it keeps us accountable, chipping away at the important tasks that are going to make a difference. I think in hospo it's really easy to get caught up by just putting out the fires week to week as to someone's on leave, so you've got to come in and cover a shift, or someone's sick, or it makes you think a little bit differently in terms of what is your actual priority that's going to make a difference in the business. And that weekly accountability helps that keep moving.
It's a chance for like the leaders to be getting together every week and just having that reminder, getting taken out of the day-to-day running of the business once a week, at least, hey, reminder, this is what we're aiming for this quarter. Yeah. And this is what you need to do this week to be able to hit that. And we're able to see that progress every week towards it. Or if there's not progress every week, we're able to give people the help they need. Like, why is there no progress happening? Do you need more resource, or do we need to shift, somebody else owns that strategy for the quarter? And
yeah,
it's how we're able to keep the momentum running in the business.
And we get this meeting done within 15 minutes. It's such a quick move along, push forward meeting. And sometimes it's in person, sometimes it's, via Google Meet, just depending on what everyone's got on for the week. But it's just that really good weekly check-in just to make sure that we're on track.
Yeah, and we've been doing it now for years, so there's obviously been learnings in that of what doesn't work, what does work for us, and how to get the right balance. We're constantly progressing it and tweaking it as well to be able to keep things moving. So then that's like the weekly TOPS meeting, which is based on our quarterly strategy staff. Talk to me about the weekly ops meetings, the meetings between like yourself and the other key leaders, and then their like head chefs or sous chefs across the venue.
So the operations meeting will have myself, Caitlin, Glenn, our exec chef, and Kai, our front of house ops manager. That's just our weekly check-in off the back of the TOPS meeting. So yes, we've got these higher level strategic goals for the quarter, but there's also things that pop up, like we might have curated plate at the end of July. So that's going to be the priority of executing that week. So Glenn's going to be off and Kai will be off then for the week. They probably won't be able to chip away at that. But that's when I can step in and be like, okay, what can I take off your plate that week? Because I'm not going to be in the thick of it in the kitchen or the front of house.
Yeah.
A good way we can work together. We understand exactly what our priorities are for the week and how can we help each other. Because there's some weeks where you're like, I'm not going to be able to do anything this week because I've got this on and this on and this on. So it sort of gives us a chance to just have a really good understanding as to what we're all working on and how we can help each other.
Okay, and then so the next layer down would be the weekly one-on-ones. And these are like a health check, checking in with the key employees, with their managers along the way. And these meetings are based on, again, just that same framework of like, what's working for you? What's not working for you? What are your priorities for the week? What can I help you with? And it's really creating this environment of great coaching and connection and communication across the team so that things just don't fester along and become problem points in the business. We're actually all collectively working together and chipping away at things. And there's a dedicated process of how we're doing these one-on-ones across the whole team, who has to speak with who, when, so that, again, everybody is being heard and things are continually having progress and momentum towards our goals right from the bottom up.
Yeah, it gives them a voice just away from the floor for a second, because in hospo it's really easy to start your shift and you're just thrown in the thick of it. You drink some water throughout it, then all of a sudden it's 6 hours later and it's home time. So it's just making that point that it gives them a voice to be able to be heard. And how can we help is a great one. That's such a good question in terms of, it's really easy to lose front of house staff because they haven't had the coaching or training they wanted when they first came on board. And it might be someone that's a host who's great at a host, but all she wanted to do was make a coffee. And she just never had that training throughout the way or a chance to even get behind the machine. So these one-on-ones is just a chance for them to be able to voice what they want, how things are looking. Sometimes it only takes a minute. Other times it's quite an in-depth personal chat that takes 15, 20 minutes. It might be their days off on a Monday, Tuesday isn't with my girlfriend or boyfriend. Can we make my days off work better for a better home life? And it gives them a voice and we can listen to that and see if we can make a difference.
I think it's also worth pointing out that, these meeting rhythms and stuff that we're following, right from the quarterly strategy meetings through to the daily or weekly check-ins with people, these aren't our ideas, original ideas. We're really keen on getting coaching and support right across the business. We have coaches working with us. We've engaged leadership coaches along the way, hospitality coaches along the way, and we will continue to do so because we can, we're strong believers in that investing in people and upskilling people. And these methods of coaching and connections and meetings and stuff are things that we've learned and adapted to our business, and we continue to learn and adapt. So something we've realized across the business is that the key to the success of this business is our people. And that's really about the right people in terms of their values and attitude and stuff towards the business and what it is that we're creating. And with the right people, we're more than happy to support the right people and continually train them and upskill them across the board. And we have a strong environment of investing in people through sending them away on leadership coaching programs that go for a couple of days out of business. Or you had another example there of sending apprentice chefs on a cooking thing together.
Yeah, Mick, our head chef out at King's Beach Bar, he had a cooking class out at Spirit House, which is a beautiful, well-renowned hinterland restaurant. Focuses really on Asian Thai cooking. And he wanted all the apprentices from the group to go out there with him, which is incredible as a chef because you can learn the menu inside and out, but a lot of the learning going through an apprenticeship, you have to get additional products in and be able to create dishes that aren't on the menu. So to be able to take them out of the normal day-to-day work environment out there for a 3-hour cooking class, it's pretty exceptional for an apprentice.
Again, it comes back to when you look at our crew now, there's so many people in there that have been through such an amazing journey. The dishy to the head chef, the barista to the cafe manager or front of house manager and stuff. And that's, people don't just do that without getting the training and support and coaching along the way. And that's really creating that kind of group ethos around, continually developing and coaching our team up.
Yeah, and it is that growth mindset. So we've been big advocates of that, having that. We've chosen to let go of good people, even though they know their job inside and out. But if they don't have that growth mindset, we do reach a point where it doesn't fully align with what we're doing anymore. So we get other people in who have that, and then they want to grow with us.
So this episode was about just showing people behind the curtain how we actually run this business, and it's not grown into the business it is through fluke or chance. It's through dedicated effort, and what that actually looks like behind the curtain is having the right rhythms and structures and systems in place, coupled with that growth mindset we've been talking about. Having quarterly board meetings, having quarterly team leadership meetings, having weekly structure around what are our focuses and priorities, what are we executing on, having weekly and daily like actual check-ins with our staff, what's working, what's not working, coupled with like our approach to developing the right team and the right talent, investing in their coaching, be it in-house or externally where we need to. And these are the things that have really helped drive this business, grow it to where it is. And, we're really proud of what we've created, but we're nowhere near done. And we know that with this approach to business that we have, this what's going on behind the curtain, what fuels the engine, that it's only going to get better. We've talked about the first 7 years of the Beach Bar. Super excited to see what's going to happen over the next 5 years, just based on the approach we're giving to the business.
Yeah, and I think it's being that people-first company that we've become, we know that we can't do it alone. And, our staff are our number one priority, and involving them through every step of the way helps us achieve our goals.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with a friend.
And follow us on socials.